Yo, what's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Mrs. Weedman?
Mr. Weedman?
How the hell are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Ready to smoke some weed. How about you?
I am.
Everybody out there in the world, hopefully you're smoking some big fat doinks while you're listening to the show. And we are about to get normal. We are smoking Mrs. Weedman's home grow, outdoor grow, some Ursula BX that was bred by Big Earl, but also with some lineage from our friend Hummingbird Hills. So we're super stoked. I've got a big fat doink over there that Mrs. Weedman is about to light up. I'm excited about this because your Ursula Berry BX has been curing now for about 4 weeks. And the last 2 weeks, it's been curing in the Grove bags that we got. So I'm super stoked to see how this smokes because I haven't tried it yet since we put it in the Grove bags. It had a really nice smell when we opened the Grove bag up yesterday. So you got to let me know what you think about that, Mrs. Weedman.
I'm gonna.
And we have some things we're going to be doing this week we're super stoked about. Hopefully we see some people there. Thursday, we were invited to the Old Pal launch party, which I don't know where it's at. I don't have my ticket on me, but I'm super stoked because I really like Old Pal. They're a California brand that is now here in Illinois. I think they're in Michigan too. I don't know what other states they're in, but I really like Rusty. He's a good guy. I've met him a couple times. He's a really good dude. I love that he's so passionate about his brand and about cannabis, and I really like the style of Old Pal. And then also to Kat, his marketing person, really nice. So I'm super stoked to go to their launch party.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I mean, a cannabis event?
Why not?
Why
They're
not?
always fun. Especially when Mr and Mrs Weedman come in.
That's right.
With lots of joints. How's that smoking?
Pretty nice.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How's it taste?
Pretty nice.
Because we haven't smoked it in a few weeks, so we gave it a rest. We wanted to see. We smoked
pretty
it. Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's like I had said, all along while I was growing it, it was not a super fragrant grow. I think because of it being outdoors.
It had a nice smell when you touched it with your hands and put your fingers on the leaves and stuff like that.
It's good, though. After being in the Grove bags, I think it made a big difference. I feel like it really
helped cure it.
Livened it up. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's a good strain. The high was good when we were smoking it before we even really cured it.
Yeah,
so
not bad.
Kind of was like knockout punch for me when we were smoking it right when we pulled it.
We'll see how this goes.
And we have something fun we're doing, and we're sponsoring it, right?
We are. This Sunday is the first High Focus Media Urban Legend Cup. So it is a home growers cup. So if you are in the Chicagoland area, Northwest Indiana, anywhere, if you're within a few hours of this south side of Chicago, come out and see us. You can check my 8 Decades Instagram account for a link to get tickets. And essentially, it's there will be some influencer level judges there, and they are going to be judging people's home grow for the urban legend. So I think it's going to be fun. There's going to be consumption, there will be vendors, there will be food, and there will be weed.
Reading on this too, your opportunities to press and test your flower. Seeds and supplies from some of the best people in Chicagoland. This is at the Blue Island Brewery, which we had our party at.
Blue Island Beer Company.
Yeah, Blue Island Beer Company. Down in Blue Island. And our friend Alan, who's a great guy, let us have our party there, our launch party for 8 Decades there, which was a really good time. And this should be just as fun. So we're super stoked. We're going to be in tent with the judges, too. Come play with our tray and roll yourself a joint. And we'll be inside and outside, too, having some fun. Yeah,
8 Decades is one of the sponsors. And the judges will be using our trays to roll their joints.
Yeah.
So you'll see all of our goods out there. We're going to have a little pop-up shop so you can buy on site and just be around some great cannabis community.
Yes.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, it should be fun. I'm excited because finally the South Side has come.
Yeah, finally an event on the South Side. How about it? The South Side, we get really left out.
Yeah, we do.
People are afraid of us. They don't go like south of
Roosevelt.
Yeah, Roosevelt is like, whoa, maybe for a Sox game. Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, we do get shit on.
We do. So it's fun that we've got an event on our end of the town.
Yes, so thanks Hi-Fi Media for doing this. We're super stoked to see something in the South Side. You're smoking a lot of that, huh?
I keep forgetting that, there's a, that's weed.
We're recording. It's not like we're just sitting around just smoking. We'll smoke a whole joint.
You guys might lose me here, but I'll try to keep on point.
It tastes really good though.
It's nice.
I do have to admit, yeah.
It's pretty good.
Came out really nice.
You good, Mr. Weedman?
I'm good for right now. Tastes good though. What else is going on?
What else is
the
going
world
on?
is crazy right now.
Yeah. The world.
All I can say is this: peace. We need love. We need peace. We need love. We need humanity to come together as one. Boy, oh boy, we do not need. We do not need. I'm only laughing because Mrs. Weedman put out the joint and bent. Sorry. We need just some peace in this world. There is a lot of tension, a lot of strain, a lot of angry people right now. A lot of divide in a world that doesn't need it right now.
Too much.
The hate. I am not here to choose a side. I'm here for humanity. And I feel for everybody right now. And my heart bleeds for people that are dying, innocent people across the world. Wherever it is, there's wars going, not only just you see in the Middle East or in the Ukraine and Russia, there's other wars that you're not being told about or seen or following because other stuff takes precedence. There's people dying, innocent people, babies, children, young adults, parents, family members that you might know or have heard, somebody you might have seen on social media crying for help. It is a sad time in this world again. And as I say a lot, peace be with you all. Please hold one another, love one another, and just be kind. We do not need more killing. It's just, I mean, I wake up every morning sad. Not because I have to go to work sad. Sad because it's just watching the pain of people and humanity. And I know there's a lot of other people out there that probably feel the same. So as I go to bed tonight, I will pray for one and all, whether you pray or not or who you pray to. Just pray for some love. Pray for some peace. Pray for just humanity right now. Because we don't know what we don't know. And where this world's going to go tomorrow. So I love you all out there, all around the world, all of our peeps, whether you smoke weed or don't smoke weed, and you listen to this show because you just want to be a part of something, we love you. Peace be with you all. Miss Weedman?
Yeah.
That ain't the end of the show.
I know it's not.
You ready to get the show on the road?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. The big difference between Haze and Kush strains. And I've had breeders on the Grow Hour, and we've talked about different strains, and Mrs. Weedman and I have talked about a ton of strains. But these are two big names in the strain world, the breeding world, the smoking world, the enjoyment of the whole, these two. So just because these two great strain names rise to the top doesn't mean they're all the same kind of great. While both are known for their potency and exquisite flavor, and two types vary greatly in their scent, appearance, and how it feels to be under its influence, one main way to differentiate between the two is that Haze takes on more sativa-dominant traits, whereas Kush follows a more indica-dominant subgroup. Sativa-dominant strains are known for their lighter yellowish-green appearance, lighter scent, and their brilliant head high, where indica-dominant strains typically take a darker, more colorful hue, deeper, rich aromas with a slow sheer body high. The words Haze and Kush can be misused in an attempt to make lesser quality flower more appealing. So know your source and appreciate each bud on its own merits. Origin story. Both strains bring with them the history of a rich tradition of cannabis cultivation, and they carry the wisdom of many green thumbs forward in hybrid after hybrid that boast their name. Haze rose to prominence in Northern California around the same time. Haze's long flowering time slowed its initial takeoff, and the strain was almost extinct by the 1980s. Then some haze seeds made its way to the Netherlands, into the hands of a cannabis seed banker named Neville Schoenmakers, who crossbred them into a sativa superstar known and loved today. Kush takes its name from the Hindu Kush mountain range, which stretches through Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India, where the strain emerged as a regional landrace plant, which I'm growing a Lebanese landrace strain right now. In the 1970s, though, it would be introduced to the United States, where it quickly gained popularity with growers and consumers alike. When looking at these strains side by side, you could see the difference in the plant as it grows and in their smokable buds. Indica-dominant Kush has broader leaves and stout by nature. The plant's compact size helps it grow easily indoors and outdoors. Sativa-dominant haze, on the other hand, grows tall and thin. Some can grow up to 25 feet, I think I'm running here, approximately 8 meters, which explains their popularity in outdoor grows. That's crazy. That's tall. Imagine having to get up on that and get... That's 25 feet. Haze leaves reflect their sativa nature, skinny and long. The flower buds of haze and Kush plants also differ sharply. Haze buds are lighter green with lots of hairy, bright orange pistils covering the outside of the flower. Kush varieties are brightly colored with deep green and rich purples. What do I always say, Mrs. Weedman? The nose knows. Mm-hmm. Follow your nose, it always knows. Toucan Sam, Fruit Loops. Taking in a big whiff of these strains will also let the use know which plant they are about to use. Indica-dominant strains tend to have a sweet and sour odor, while sativa-dominant strains seem to have more fresh types of odors to their buds. Haze and Kush strains generally follow these broad characteristics, but their own aromas help differentiate between the two. Haze has uniquely spicy citrus smell that is earthly sweet. It definitely stands out in a crowd. Kush carries its own distinctive sweet, pungent earthiness, but it hits the nose hard with rich notes that can vary with pine, spice, pepper, and even incense. Taste the greatness. What it was called? Taste the Rainbow? What commercial was that? Skittles?
Yes.
Yeah, Taste the Rainbow, right? You should know that, you Skittle lover, Mrs. Weedman. Reflecting through each inhale and exhale provides the smoker a unique experience when it comes to the taste of each strain. Both of these strains boast distinctive flavors. Haze strains taste brighter, and they are said to have earthly sweet citrus profiles with an almost a sweet and sour flavor. Kush strains offer smooth and complex flavors filled with notes of flowers, grapes, citrus, diesel, and earth. Experience the moment. When using these strains, their experiences differ widely. Indica strains lean to a strong body high and are helpful for people looking to relieve anxiety, body pain, and insomnia. The sativa plant provides an experience described as uplifting and energetic. The cerebral high drop the use in creative, active moods, but every experience is different. Both haze and Kush are known for their high feelings euphoric and happy in nature, but haze highs feel more energetic, while Kush tends to feel sleepier. Haze are heavy lifting among sativas. Here, I'm going to say something real quick, because I've talked about the whole sativa indica hybrids. Sativas make you up, indicas make you down, hybrids make you feel all around. Just depends on what they're built with. The plant is the plant. Sativa is a plant. Indica is a plant. They do give you certain strains give you certain feelings. But if you look at a sativa plant, how high it grows, think about like the tallness of that plant, the energy it takes to build that plant, 25 feet tall. So think of that plant giving you energy because that plant needs a lot of energy to grow. It needs to be in balance with the growth of that size of that plant. It takes a lot of energy to grow 25 feet tall. So think of that. Sativa helps you grow. Kush, now colder weather. It grows short and stumpier due to the colder weather being in the Himalayan mountains. It doesn't take a lot of energy. It's slow and methodical. It doesn't need long periods of time to get to flower because of the growing season. It's short. It's nice. It's like on a cold winter day when you're just laying on the couch enjoying watching snow come down. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Or am I just really high?
You're pretty high.
You grew good weed, Mrs. Weedman. Mm-hmm. Both Haze and Kush are known for their high feelings, euphoric, happy in nature. But Haze highs feel more energetic while Kush tends to feel sleepier. Hazes are heavy hitting among sativas. Their potent cerebral and social head highs are accompanied by a body brightness thanks to its medium-level CBD content. Ha-ha. Kushers are typically heavier in indica varieties, providing significant body sedation and pain relief. So, there's a lot of strains out there. Look them up. But, I mean, find what's right for you and have fun with it. Explore, experience. Women, at a certain period of their life, your body changes when you get older.
Yep.
You want to talk about it, Mrs. Weedman?
Yeah.
I have no right to talk about
That's
it.
That's right. Move over, Mr. Weedman.
No right.
Step aside.
All I need to do is step aside.
Just step aside. Just step aside. Women are turning to cannabis to manage menopause symptoms. Does it help? Well, menopause is having a moment. It is. Let me tell you. Gone are the days of suffering in silence. Today's menopausal women can choose from wellness retreats, celebrity-backed supplements, and hot flash pajamas that all promise to ease their hormonal transition. But if recent studies are any indication, the buzziest trend in menopausal wellness is weed. The latest and largest cross-sectional survey to date, which involved more than 5,100 American women between the ages of 45 and 64, found that 42% reported using cannabis. Of those users, 13% solely used the plant in edible and vape form to manage age-related symptoms like chronic pain, while 6% specifically turned to weed to treat symptoms of menopause, such as anxiety and sleep disorders. The study, led by Carolyn Gibson, health services researcher at the University of California, San Francisco, and presented at the Menopause Society's annual meeting in September, offered a glimpse into the new normal for midlife women in the age of cannabis legalization. Gibson stated in a press release, "We know that cannabis products are being marketed toward women to manage menopause symptoms, and these findings suggest that midlife women are turning to cannabis for menopause symptoms and other common issues in the menopause transition." A handful of other surveys in the U.S. and Canada back this up, with participants using medical cannabis to help with everything from hot flashes and lowered libido to mood issues and insomnia. As of October, 38 states have some form of legalized cannabis measures, and women over 50 are one of the fastest growing groups of users. But according to Gibson, we still do not know if use is actually helping those symptoms or if it may be contributing to other challenges. Hormone therapy remains the safest, most effective treatment for menopause symptoms, but it's gotten a bad rap over the years, mostly due to the debunked cancer link that made doctors and patients wary. Another issue is a lack of understanding around menopause in general. On average, women reach menopause, defined as 12 months without a period, between the ages of 46 and 52. But hormonal symptoms such as trouble sleeping and heightened anxiety can kick up can kick in, up to 10 years earlier, leading women to treat their symptoms rather than the root cause. And while many midlife women surveyed find cannabis products help with sleep and mood issues, there's a lack of scientific research to back the claims. Here's what we do know so far about menopause and cannabis. In the years leading up to menopause, hormones produced by the ovaries begin to fluctuate and eventually decrease. Lower estrogen, in particular, is linked to symptoms like hot flashes, mood changes, lower libido, joint aches, and a host of debilitating issues. But in recent years, researchers have honed in on the endocannabinoid system, a complex network of transmitters that regulate hormones such as estrogen. Endocannabinoids act as an internal air traffic control, regulating everything from body temperature to sleep-wake cycles, memory, bone health, and sexual function. But a shift in hormones can throw the system's whole homeostatic balance out of whack. Here's where it gets interesting. Cannabinoids found in the cannabis plant mimic certain endocannabinoids inside your body. So theoretically, since THC might mimic anandamide, the temperature-regulating endocannabinoid, it should help with hot flashes, said Dr. Laura Stryker, clinical professor of obstetrics and gynecology at Northwestern University's Feinberg School of Medicine and the author of Hot Flash Hell, a gynecologist's guide to turning down the heat. So does it actually help hot flashes? We don't know. And that's the research we need, she said. In theory, fewer hot flashes means better sleep, and better sleep can reduce anxiety and a whole host of other menopausal symptoms. For women suffering from sleep disorders, there is some early evidence that cannabis might help regulate sleep-wake cycles and reduce anxiety linked to menopause. But there are a lot of unknowns in regard to long-term risks and potential interactions with other medications. More is known about CBD, the non-psychoactive cannabinoid found in cannabis. It has anti-inflammatory properties and promotes blood flow, which may help ease joint aches and vaginal dryness caused by decreased hormone levels. On its own, it's legal across the country and sold as cream and oil-based products that you can apply directly to pain points. But like all cannabis treatments, even CBD has a lot of unknowns. But that hasn't stopped a whole host of new menopause-centric cannabis products from hitting the market, from vaginal suppositories for hot flashes to menopause-branded gummies and oils for anxiety and sleep support. Apart from anecdotal evidence, not much is known about the effects of cannabis on menopause symptoms, though. To date, there are 0 clinical trials exploring the risks and efficacy for menopause symptoms. Scientific research on cannabis has long focused on male participants and, to a lesser degree, younger women, 2 groups that metabolize cannabis faster than menopausal-aged women. The first thing we need to do is a randomized controlled trial on women who are using cannabis to treat these symptoms, and a control group not using cannabis, in order to see which symptoms improve and which do not, said Dr. Stephanie Faubian, director of the Mayo Clinic Center for Women's Health and medical director of the Menopause Society. But that's easier said than done. While legalization varies by state, cannabis remains a federally classified Schedule I drug, making it much harder to obtain for scientific research. It's also unlikely to receive funding for vigorous clinical trials that pharmaceutical companies back in order to get FDA approval. What's the incentive to fund a study if the product is already out there, notes Stryker. Moreover, what happens if they find that cannabis doesn't work? For now, it's up to women to be savvy consumers, but in the ever-evolving world of legal cannabis, it's hard to know where to start. A lot of articles suggest talking to your doctor about treating your symptoms with cannabis, but what doctor and for which symptom? Even if you have a provider you trust, there's still a knowledge gap between clinicians and new types of cannabis treatments. Asking your local bud tender isn't easy either, as Stryker has learned. In her own unscientific experiment, She's found that most dispensary clerks don't know the first thing about menopausal symptoms or how to treat them. Are you curious about cannabis? Well, of course, Stryker says, start slow, start low. And she tells new users to keep a diary of symptoms, products used, dosage, and personal response to each. The thing that I think is most important is that you do not have to get high to get the benefits of cannabis, says Scanlon. Understanding how cannabis is dosed is also really important, especially if you're buying it in an edible or topical form. She says to look for products with a higher ratio of CBD to THC. Think a ratio of 3-to-1 or 20-to-1, and she also suggests starting with no more than 2 to 3 milligrams of THC. While cannabis gummies are popular for sleep, they also take longer to kick in and can last up to 6 hours. For faster, shorter-acting effects, Scanlon suggests oil tinctures for short-term pain and anxiety relief because they metabolize quicker. If you do find yourself feeling too high, Scanlon suggests a drop of CBD oil under your tongue, and it will bring you back down and help you feel more like yourself. Overall, it's a process of trial and error. Everyone's endocannabinoid system is different, so you have to experiment to find the amount that makes you feel your best. Other experts suggest first trying more mainstream options to manage menopause symptoms before experimenting with cannabis. I think women need to back up a little bit here, says Fabian. Why are you going to use an unproven therapy when we have plenty of safe and effective therapies, including hormone therapy, available for treatment of menopause symptoms? Okay, I'm just going to stop here because I am in the thick of menopause. I also have a health condition that's kind of intense, I'll just say, and that requires a medication that's kind of intense. So I have menopausal symptoms, I have health condition symptoms, and I have medication side effects. And all of them absolutely overlap. So my body doesn't know what the fuck to do. And it's really frustrating. And I can say that for myself, it is a struggle because you don't sleep for a number of reasons. You're tossing, you're turning, menopause, hot flashes. Like they say, then you're tired, then you're anxious, then you don't sleep, and da-da-da-da-da. It's this big cycle. And I don't talk to my many doctors that I see frequently about my use of cannabis because I don't trust the system. I just don't. I have seen just about every specialist under the sun, oncology, hematology, rheumatology, OB-GYN, what else? Ear, nose, and throat, GI. I mean, I could just, do you want me to keep going? Allergy, skin, dermatology, skin cancer surgeons. I mean, it's ridiculous, okay? It's a lot. And if I can find some bit of relief from a natural plant, I am not going to allow the government to take that right away from me. I'm going to get a little emotional, and I'm not going to allow the laws to prevent me from being insured. And my concern is that because doctors don't understand cannabis, and again, I hint at things, I suggest, I don't say I use it, I suggest just to get a feel, just to put a pulse out there. And I can tell in their expression, I can tell in their immediate response that these doctors don't understand it. I can also tell you, doctors don't even touch you. They see you and treat you for all of these conditions. They hardly even put a hand on your shoulder. If you get that, you might get, oh, everything's going to be okay, and a little pat. That you don't even go on an exam table for most of your physicians these days. When you're like dealing with specialists and things, in my experiences with the condition I have, you see all these people who just tell you how you need to live your life, and the symptoms and things that you're going to be dealing with, and the medications that you should be taking, and almost point the finger that you're not cooperative if you don't want to take more of these medicines. And then when you say, how about a vitamin? How about cannabis? And you just see their faces like, are you kidding me? Like you're stupid or something. No, it's not that you're stupid. It's just
ignorant. They think you're ignorant.
No, here's the thing. It's not. They're clinicians. They're scientists, and they're not there to study natural health. They're there to look at things as a scientific problem that they can solve with a scientific substance. And your unregulated drug, as they would call it, is not science yet because the FDA doesn't approve it. So they'll suggest that you take one more drug, and then the symptoms are here, so let's take another drug. Well, why won't you take this drug, and why won't you take this drug? Well, if you get the side effects, we can give you a drug for that. You can have this, and you can have that, and they'll just keep handing this fucking shit out all day long. And you suggest that you want to use some sort of natural therapy, and they're like, oh, that could interfere with your medication. Well, you know what? I'm going to make that choice for myself. And I'm going to take as few medications as I possibly can. And if I can supplement with cannabis to get through some of this bullshit in my life, I'm going to do it. But I honestly don't trust the system that I could openly talk to any of my physicians about how cannabis helps me. So that's my little banter. And I'm going to go back to this because I think that we all have to live our lives the way that we feel we need to live them. And a doctor is in no way going to force me to do something that I don't want to do. It is ultimately my choice. But we have this wonderful plant, and I intend to use it for the rest of my life. And I'm not going to let a doctor strong arm me and make me think that it's bad for me because they just don't know. So, anyway, Stryker, one of the women in this article, agrees that hormone, and this is the other thing, I've had the suggestion of hormone therapies for hot flashes and everything, but when you have overlap, which I'm sure I'm far from the only person who has overlapping health issues. So, I have a condition that causes another condition and medication to take care of those. And then you have menopause, like I said, and then you just have life. And how do you, what if they're giving me a medication and really this is just a symptom of, I kind of got lost in my own thoughts. Anyway, I just don't want to take more medicines than I have to. So the hormone therapy, this woman is saying, is the gold standard for symptom treatment. But there are some concerns about taking that, right? Anything has potential side effects. Women with menopause, this is a quote, symptoms that negatively impact their ability to function are desperate for answers. And some feel like cannabis is the answer, says Stryker, who's conducting her own online survey of menopausal cannabis users. Is it better to eat a cannabis gummy for sleep than a sleeping pill? I can't answer that, admits Stryker, but I do know weed should be in the toolbox.
Thanks for sharing, Mrs. Weedman.
Sure. Sorry, got a little heavy there.
It's all right. It's a part of it's life.
Mm-hmm.
For all you young men out there, or young people, or a young person that listens to this, and your mom or your grandma, or if you're married and your wife is going through menopause right now, just be there and be understanding, even when you don't want to, because it's hard. Be understanding. Just be there. Right?
Right. Or just take a break and say, I'm going to go for a walk right now.
Go smoke some
or
weed.
let your female person in your life who is going through menopause go for a walk right now.
Or go smoke weed together.
Smoke weed together.
It's actually
right?
fucking great.
Yeah. It's honestly it's not like every day and every moment of menopause is complete misery. The biggest aspect for most women, I think, is hot flashes. And like I'm a woman in business. I meet with clients. I am professional. Like I'm working and gaining trust of clients to help them make the biggest purchase of their life, their home. It's kind of a big deal. You're like the face of this transaction. They look to you for advice. They look to you for help in negotiating. In this insane market that we're in right now, they look to you like for all the answers. Like, I need a house and I know it's almost impossible to make that happen. Can you be the person to make that happen for me? Or I'm selling my house. Can you be the person to find the buyer for my house? But, you know, it's this whole snowball effect. And here I am, like, talking all my, like, information that I know about actively working in this market. And then all of a sudden I'm like in this, like, drenching sweat. My hair is, like, stuck to my face. And literally I have sweat, like, dripping, you know, like, under my eyes, like, on my cheeks. And I'm trying to stay composed. And it's like, okay, I like, do you stop and tell your client, oh, excuse me, I'm having a hot flash? Like, you know, you're supposed to keep business and personal separate. Like, there's this line of professionalism you don't want to cross. And then you don't want to make that person feel uncomfortable. Because if it's like a guy or someone younger, they're like, what does that even, you know, I don't even know.
What does that even mean?
Like, what's your point, lady? Like, why are you dripping sweat right now? So I will say, though, we're not terrible when we're going through menopause. It's not every minute.
No.
But in those moments, or your wife comes home, or your person comes home from work with that story of being in that moment and they just felt embarrassed or whatever, just be there for
That's
them.
all I just said.
That's all.
Just be there.
Be there to hand them a joint and say, here.
Let's go smoke.
Let's go smoke.
Human use of cannabis for food, fiber, and psychoactive effects stretches back millennia, a new report says. A new paper in the European Journal for Chemistry traces the history of cannabis through thousands of years of contact with mankind, noting the plant's legacy as a source of fiber, nutrition, medicine, spirituality, and pleasure. At the same time, it notes that cannabis is perhaps one of the greatest controversies in contemporary humanity and the key driver of the modern war on drugs. The paper from Ancient Asian Relics on Contemporaneity? Whew, I'm stoned. A review of historical and chemical aspects of cannabis was written by Gabriel Vitor de Lima Marque and Renata Barbeso de Oliveira of the Pharmacy Department at the Federal University of Minas Gerais in Brazil. The cannabis plant appears to have first been used for its fiber as material for ropes and other manufactured goods, the author wrote. The use of hemp fiber dates back to approximately 10,000 years ago in ancient Mesopotamia and roughly 6,000 to 5,000 years ago in China and Kakistan, respectively. Ancient people considered cannabis one of the 5 main grains, along with rice, soy, barley, and millet. The paper continues, and once stalks were processed into hemp fibers, they became durable materials for ropes, sails, boat rigging, and clothing, paper, animal husbandry, and more. What's husbandry? Is that clothing? Animal husbandry?
Like, I believe it's like raising, like a breeder.
Oh, gotcha. Mm-hmm. Used as a stunner to facilitate the capture of fish. I was just trying to keep you on your toes, Mrs. Weedman, see if you were paying attention. Used as a stunner to facilitate the capture of fish, it says cannabis is possibly the first plant to be cultivated for non-food purposes. Consuming cannabis for psychological effects, meanwhile, dates back to about 3,000 years ago, the study says. The first people of China used as both therapeutic and narcotic tool were from the Indian region Sisera 1,000 years BCE, mainly because of its religious connotations. The two purposes were often linked. Cannabis psychoactive effects were also recorded in the world's oldest pharmacopoeia, the Pen Cao Qing, the roots which date back to 2700 BC. It's so weird that China has so much history with cannabis and hemp, and they just don't allow any of it. It's crazy. In the Indian region, the paper continues preparations were used at events ranging from more casual occasions such as weddings and family gatherings, festivals and celebrating the coming of the season such as Hala Festival, to ceremonies of important religious nature such as Durga Puja. It is understood that marijuana is a significant respected for these people in the communion wine or sacred host for Christians, authors wrote. For was other facts, medicine used cannabis practically as a panacea, an analgesic, antispasmodic, anticonvulsant, anti-inflammatory, aphrodisiac, and anaphrodisiac. Appetite stimulant, treatment of female tract diseases. They were even using it back then. Inductor of childbirth. Interesting. I know a few women that have used cannabis during childbirth. So they used it back then, among several other applications. The paper finding challenging fundamental assertions by leading prohibitionists such as Kevin Sabet of Smart Approaches of Marijuana, Sam, the outlawing cannabis while permitting alcohol is justified because alcohol has a longer history of use. No. Wrong. The key difference between alcohol and drug prohibition, Sabet wrote in 2011, lies in the substance itself. Alcohol, unlike illegal drugs, has a long history of widespread accepted use in society, dating back to before biblical times. Illegal drugs cannot claim such persuasive use by a large part of the planet's population over such a long period of time. No, you're wrong. As the new paper explains, Semitic people also knew about the psychoactive property of cannabis centuries before the Christian era, using the plant formulation ranging from ointments to external injuries to oral preparations for various ailments and sickness of the spirit. It was common in Mesopotamia and Persian regions to use cannabis-based incense in certain social rituals, such as funerals, which is mentioned in an aromatic version of the Old Testament of the biblical for aromatic and narcotic purposes. Humans are, of course, still unraveling the mysteries of cannabis plant. A recent explosion in CBD demonstrates. A recent study also shed light on the experience of cannabis when it found the consuming multiple cannabinoids produced a stronger, longer-lasting high than taking pure THC. And while evolution and selective breeding have traditionally been responsible for changes in the cannabis plant over time, increasingly humans are charting its course. The USDA recently said that genetically engineered hemp plant may start being grown here in the United States. Ew. So a little more history added. The science is clear. What is more safer than tobacco?
Weed. Nearly twice as many Americans believe that smoking cigarettes is more hazardous to your health than smoking marijuana. They're right. Numerous studies assessing the long-term health impacts of cannabis smoke exposure question the myth that marijuana is associated with the same sort of well-established adverse respiratory hazards as tobacco. For example, federally funded research at the University of California, Los Angeles compared the lifetime risk of lung cancer among more than 2,000 long-term marijuana smokers, tobacco smokers, and non-smokers. Investigators determined that those who regularly smoked cigarettes possessed a 20-time higher lung cancer risk than non-smokers, and those who only smoked marijuana had no elevated risk. We hypothesized that there would be a positive association between marijuana use and lung cancer, the study's lead author explained. What we found instead was no association at all, and even a suggestion of some protective effect. Did you hear that? That's great. More recently, a team of health experts writing in the journal Chronic Obstructive Pulmonary Diseases reported that neither former nor current cannabis smoking of any cumulative lifetime amount was associated with COPD progression or development. Did you hear that? That's great.
I did.
Other studies indicate that cannabis smoke and tobacco smoke aren't equally carcinogenic, and that subjects who exclusively smoke cannabis have less exposure to harmful toxicants and carcinogens than tobacco smokers. Some researchers have also theorized that cannabinoids' anti-cancer activities may offset some of the harms otherwise associated with inhaling smoke. According to the findings of a recent paper published in the American Journal of Respiratory and Critical Care Medicine, it is increasingly clear that cannabis has different effects on lung function compared to tobacco, and the effects of widespread cannabis use will not necessarily mirror the harms caused by tobacco smoking. A separate review paper published recently by researchers affiliated with the University of Arkansas is even more blunt. The data on marijuana sharply contrasts the consistent demonstration of injury from tobacco. The greatest legalized killer in the world today, they concluded. Any possible toxicity of marijuana pales in comparison. This is not to say that cannabis smoke exposure is altogether innocuous. Cannabis smoke does share some of the same toxins and particulates that are found in tobacco smoke, and some studies have linked marijuana smoking to a temporary increase in saliva production and wheezing, as well as an increased risk of bronchitis. That said, exposure to combustive toxins can be significantly reduced by using a vaporizer. In laboratory studies, herbal cannabis vaporizers have been determined to be an effective and apparently safe vehicle for THC delivery that does not result in exposure to combustion gases. Cannabis compounds can also be infused in a multitude of products that don't require smoking, including food products and drinks. The findings of these studies are clear and consistent. The risks associated with cannabis smoke and tobacco smoke are far from equal. Boom.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yay, cannabis.
Yay.
If Ohio voters pass cannabis legalization measure, the Senate president says he'll push for reviewing it and repealing things. It's just like what happened in South Dakota, what happened in North Dakota, what's happening in a few states. Your vote does not matter. Florida, it's going to happen in Florida. They're trying to push it out to not even get on the ballot. Because they know it's probably going to pass this time, missed by 2%. Your vote in Ohio doesn't matter. All you listeners out there that are going to vote for this, you better make sure that this doesn't get repealed. The laws are in your favor, not in the government's favor, where home grow is allowed and you can do caregiver programs and not just let everybody, all big corporations come in and pile on and make money. So do not let this just, you have your say. And if they fucking take these laws and change it around on you, that means your votes didn't matter. Humboldt cannabis farmers sue block citizen initiative. A group of cannabis farmers in Humboldt County, California, is suing to block a citizen initiative that they say would completely overhaul cannabis regulations. Terrible. The start where everything came from in the United States, from that Humboldt triangle. Just don't mess it up. There's goodness there. Older Kansans want lawmakers to legalize medical marijuana and expand it to Medicaid. GOP cannabis banking reform sponsors a Senate vote on hold until the House can vote a new House Speaker in, and until a lot of other stuff that's going on in the House. So once again, shit goes awry. Governor Gavin Newsom of California nixes psychedelic decriminalization in cannabis cafes. Mistake. Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission tries to fix stalled license process because there was a MSO that put a lawsuit on, and I heard the judge threw it out. So let's get back to business and get those suppositories to all my Albanians down there. This is fucked up in Jacksonville. Mary Jane Jog 5K canceled after sheriff's office refused to provide road assistance to protect the racers going up and close the streets out and stuff like that. So they cancel it. Isn't that fucked up? Mm-hmm. Just trying to bring awareness to cannabis medicine, and you rid off something good because you're just being what we say here in the south side of Chicago, a jag-off. Colorado dispensaries have sold more than $15 billion worth of marijuana since legalization, and generating $2.5 billion in tax revenue since 2014. That's a lot of monies. A lot of monies. Majority of U.S. truckers favored changes in federal cannabis testing regulations. Good. Nearly 2/3 of the U.S. truck drivers and carriers support changing the federal cannabis testing regulations, according to an American Transportation Research Institute report. Here's something crazy. The Teamsters is the trucking union, right?
Yeah.
They won't fight for the truckers to get the laws changed so they can, when the truckers are off work, they can smoke cannabis. But boy, oh boy, will they unionize cannabis workers in this state real quick.
Because there's money to be made.
Exactly. Good call, Mrs. Weedman. That weed makes us smart. Could West Virginia schools start allowing medical marijuana? The guidelines for administering medical marijuana to students in West Virginia schools resemble the current policies for prescriptions, but is more restrictive. So some students, would a doctor or physician prescribe medical marijuana for whatever their qualifying condition is, but one major difference for marijuana is that the school nurse cannot administer it to a student. Ooh, so that means the parents would have to come. Should be some sort of training for nurses. Feds clarify that doctor-recommended medical marijuana is no excuse for a positive THC test under the new workplace guidelines. Man. Just, we ain't moving forward. We're moving 2 steps back right now. All right, so there's so Cannabis, Corpo Cannabis, down in Florida that has donated $500K to Florida's marijuana legalization ballot because they want to get it on the ballot. And to date, this company has total donations to staggering almost $40 million. That's a lot of money to try to get it passed. Because in Florida, you own a cultivation. In Florida, you own dispensaries also, because only your cultivated weed can be sold in your dispensaries. That's even a crazier law, if I read that right. Mm-hmm. So this company's got a lot at stake in Florida because they have their own cultivation and they have a lot. I think they're the most dispensaries in Florida. I think they have over 50, maybe more. I'm not exactly 100% sure on that, but they have a lot. So if it goes recreational, there's over 20 million people that live in Florida all year round, 23, I think now, million. And then if you add on top of that, what's the biggest revenue that goes into Florida, Mrs. Weedman?
Tourism.
Probably another 50 million people that go through Florida every year for tourism, right?
Right.
That state's going to be like a $5 billion state. You think $39 million is a drop in the bucket for this Corpo Cannabis company to drop because they know they're going to be making $1 billion or $2 billion in 2 or 3 years from now.
Right.
So it's a lot of monies. We have a heartfelt for Last Prisoner Project.
Yeah.
We donate through our website. When someone buys something through 8 decades and they round up, the money goes to Last Prisoner Project, right?
Yes, they can donate at their checkout.
Right.
Yeah. So Last Prisoner Project is always working to help free incarcerated nonviolent cannabis offenders. If you're not aware of them, they're all over social media. You can find them. They're always out doing great work. So Last Prisoner Project's State of Cannabis Justice Report highlights sobering realities, and movement at the federal level hasn't led to anyone being released from incarceration quite yet. I need some water. They highlighted some startling realities despite recent promises and movement at the federal level to loosen laws around the prohibition of cannabis. 1 year after President Joe Biden pledged to expunge certain low-level cannabis convictions, Last Prisoner Project released its State of Cannabis Justice Report last week. While promises have been made, has anyone actually been released from prison? Well, on October 6th of 2022, Biden announced historic steps to advance the end of cannabis prohibition in the country by pardoning over 6,500 individuals for low-level cannabis offenses. And while it was a baby step in the right direction, no one was actually released from prison, Last Prisoner Project announced. In addition, President Biden initiated a scheduling review of cannabis to lower it from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. But unless cannabis is fully descheduled, it would also not free any of the approximately 3,000 people who are still incarcerated at the federal level for cannabis. Justice is not achieved through mere legalization alone, but by undoing the harms caused by cannabis prohibition, the report's announcement reads. 24 states have enacted cannabis-specific record clearance laws, and 10 states have enacted cannabis-specific resentencing laws. Our report allows the public to compare, contrast, and learn about each state's efforts to improve the consequences of cannabis convictions. And while a year has passed since Biden's pledge, few things have changed for cannabis law in the United States. As we mark the first anniversary of President Biden's cannabis proclamation, Last Prisoner Project reaffirms its dedication to the pursuit of justice, equity, and compassion. The announcement continues. We remain committed to dismantling the harmful legacy of the war on drugs and ensuring that those affected by cannabis prohibition are not forgotten. Most people incarcerated for cannabis are convicted at the state level, it turns out. That's why Last Prisoner Project wants volunteers to send thousands of letters from the public urging their governors to grant cannabis clemency through our Pardons to Progress campaign. Last Prisoner Project is also uplifting the voices of specific people who are harmed by cannabis criminalization through their Pen to Right History campaign. This includes people like Rashid Ashmead, whose father is serving a 22-year sentence for cannabis. Last Prisoner Project commends the steps taken by Biden so far, but they also want to urge the president to right the wrongs of history by granting broad cannabis clemency, which he could achieve with the stroke of a pen. Last Prisoner Project focuses on 3 key criminal justice reform initiatives: prisoner release, cannabis record clearance, and re-entry support. Mutulu Olugbala, also known as M1 Dead Prez, rapper, was appointed to Last Prisoner Project's board of directors and performed in collaboration with Last Prisoner Project last March. He pointed out that people need to see the bigger picture. It's plain to see that the U.S. agenda of mass incarceration is still their priority. M1 told High Times last June, "This is glaring due to the changed public perception and recent decriminalization of cannabis. These contradictions expose the depth of injustice in this country as the undeniable power of plant medicine continues to grow." According to the FBI's Crime Data Explorer, state and local enforcement agencies reported 170,856 arrests for cannabis possession in 2021, slightly down from over 226,000 in 2020. It's legal in like more than half the states. There are many examples of lives that have been ruined by the federal prohibition of cannabis, but some progress has been made. Richard DeLisi served 32 years of a 99-year sentence for a non-violent crime. He was released from prison on December 8th of 2020. But during his time in prison, DeLisi's wife and other family members passed away. His daughter was paralyzed, and he missed many memories. At age 71, he was released from prison in Florida, making him the longest-serving non-violent cannabis prisoner in the United States. People like DeLisi deserve to have an early hand in legal cannabis, probably more than anyone. Another example is California's cannabis prisoner Luke Scarmazzo, who was freed from prison on February 3rd. Today, after serving nearly 15... Oh, I just bit my lip. I'm like, wow, I'm doing really good reading here. Sorry. He says, today, after serving nearly 15 years in prison for operating a cannabis dispensary, I was granted my freedom, Scarmazzo wrote on social media. The feeling is surreal. We've worked toward this day for so long. This was a huge victory for my family, friends, community, and the entire cannabis movement. I'll take a moment to enjoy this, but make no mistake, there's still so much to be done. My people need to be freed, and that hard work begins now. Oh, man.
And you were reading so well.
I was reading so well.
So
Honk,
good.
I just chomped down on my lip. I'm all right.
I'm dying. That was too good. We're just trying to keep everybody on their toes on that one.
Yeah.
International news. A draft bill in Tasmania would require destruction of crops that cross the limit of 1% THC. Oh, my goodness. Under Tasmania original 2015 hemp bill, industrial hemp can be grown only from certified hemp varieties that typically express a maximum of 0.5%. But the maximum limit is harvested crops full 1%, which essentially marks the dividing line between hemp and marijuana. All Tasmanian hemp crops are tested for THC content. Bam. Bring in the cops that come and tear it down and destroy it. And then the research license, the bill would also adjust language regarding the license of research projects by renaming special license to special research license so you can get that 1%. So they're trying to amend some stuff, but who knows? Man, that's just weak. Weak sauce right there. Ukraine Healthcare Committee approves medical marijuana bill. The second draft bill to be legalized medical marijuana in Ukraine was approved by the country's healthcare committee. Ukraine MP and committee member Olga Stefanshina confirmed the committee recommended a medical cannabis bill for the second reading, and the parliament reported a new voice of Ukraine. They're going to need cannabis after all this is over. I mean, half of that country's in rubble. And, there's going to be a lot of PTSD and a lot of fucked up people after this. So pass that fucking medical bill and just give them free cannabis. Don't even charge them because they're going to need it to get their shit and their brains back in order after this. Albania assessing hemp growth opportunities. A local hemp industry organization in Albania is asking farmers to examine hemp growth opportunities. The news comes less than 3 months after the Albanian parliament legalized cannabis for medical and industrial use. Sweet. United Kingdom biggest independent cannabis use study missing black participants. Last year, King College London announced the world's largest independent marijuana use research study, Cannabis and Me. About 1 year later, the study is having difficulties finding enough diverse participants in the London area. The lead research raised concerns about the study result due to its lack of diversity. We will end up finding they only represent the white population, and they won't be generalized to black British people who therefore won't be able to benefit from the advances of our study, leads to the MD said. The study began signing up participants in 2022 and now has more than 2,200, but it needs several more thousands in total, writes Cannabis Science and Tech. The study will use a combination of DNA, genetic, and epigenetics testing, psychological and cognitive analysis, and virtual reality to understand the link between users' biological makeup and the effect cannabis has on them, according to King's College website. I want to be a part of that study. The research requires 100 more black participants, but seems the recruitment efforts have not having satisfying results. So if you haven't signed up, I think they're still taking participants. So check it out. PM in a country that's next to Nepal. I'm going to probably butcher the name, but the Bhutan, country of Bhutan, Bhutan, which is right next to Nepal. The PM says no to legalizing cannabis due to his trade with some Indian states and New Delhi being one of them. So his concern is they might not want to trade because it's not legal in India, except for Bang, that's weird. But so he's afraid to legalize cannabis in his country, which is a bummer because that's part of all the Himalayan mountains and stuff too, where they could probably grow some great Hindu Kush. We talk a lot about freeing prisoners, hence the Last Prisoner Project for nonviolent cannabis crimes. This one pretty fucked up. This man got 55 years for $1,000 worth of cannabis.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. And now he's shaken up Washington, D.C. for criminal justice reform. For years, proponents of cannabis legalization have argued that criminalizing the plant serves no rational purpose. Weldon Angelos, a prime example of an individual subjected to unjust incarceration for a cannabis offense, agrees. If you're in prison for cannabis, it's an injustice. No one should be in jail for cannabis, Angelos told Maureen Meehan, Benzinga cannabis editor, and those gathered in Chicago last month at the Benzinga Cannabis Capital Conference. Angelos was given a 55-year prison sentence at the age of 24 for less than $1,000 worth of cannabis. 55 years. Not even 24 years old. 55 years for less than $1,000 of weed. His case attracted national attention and sparked a broader conversation about the severity of cannabis-related punishments. He was released from prison in 2016 and did not waste time, but rather helped those who were unfairly sentenced for cannabis possession. After founding a nonprofit called the Weldon Project, Angelos worked on changing the law, which led to the passing of the First Step Act in 2018. The measure took away prosecutors' power to send someone like myself away for, the rest of my life for a little bit of weed, Angelos explained. But to help those still in prison, he launched the Mission Green Initiative with the aim of changing cannabis policies at the federal level. Over the years, cannabis giants like Verano Holdings, Terra Ascent Corp., Curaleaf Holdings, to name a few, They stepped up to support Angelo's mission. I'm really happy that the industry is stepping up, the criminal justice reform advocate said. We can have a two-tiered system where some people profit from cannabis while we're keeping people. We can't have a two-tiered system where some people profit from cannabis while we're keeping people in prison to serve decades-long sentences. After all, there are roughly 2,700 people incarcerated in the federal system and tens of thousands more on the state level, still waiting for criminal justice reform. In federal prison, you've got, right now, people serving 60 years for a cannabis-only offense, Angelos highlighted, and it's not right. Having experience working with both the Trump and Biden administrations on setting free those unjustly incarcerated for cannabis possession, he identified Congress as the biggest obstacle. The president can only do so much with executive orders. Governors can only do so much, Angelos continues. But it's up to Congress to change things and make it permanent. To that end, he and his team previously urged Congress members to act on the issue. We launched a Republican outreach effort to work with people like U.S. Senators Mike Lee and Rand Paul that are more sensible when it comes to criminal justice issues and especially cannabis policy, he said, calling on their GOP colleagues to step up and be consistent and not hypocrites. Asked about what he recommends to those who want to join the fight for his cause, he said, they need to put pressure on their elected officials. It's the only way because only Congress can fix this problem. So, if you want to get involved, those are two great organizations. You've got, I'm looking for the name again. I just drew a blank.
Mission Green.
Weldon Project, and you've got Last Prisoner Project.
Yep. He launched the Mission Green initiative, right?
Yes, Mission Green initiative. Right. Yep.
There is a problem in Congress. They can never get anything done.
They're busy sleeping.
They can't even vote
they
on.
Sleep.
They can't even vote on a fucking somebody to run the House right now. Let alone get. It's just a total disaster.
A mess.
Total disaster.
Total.
Need to start over. There might be one or two that can stay in. You got that right. Clean the house as quick as possible. Get that vacuum cleaner and fucking lemon pledge out. There's a lot of wood in the house, right? A lot of old wood.
A lot of dead spiders in the corners, just doing nothing.
A therapist and Mary Jane. What Christian Laettner said when Gilbert Arenas asked him how he deals with hate. This is NBA players. Christian Laettner was not a very popular player. One of the best college basketball players of his time, not of all time, but of his time. He was the only college student in the 1990 Dream Team, Olympic basketball team, because they went all pro that year, because they were tired of getting beat. So he was the only one. It was a big controversy to let him on too. It was kind of crazy. So he was not a very popular player when he got to the pros. His pro career was not very long, but he played with Gilbert Arenas in Washington. Among all the teammates he played with, Agent Zero said he never saw NBA fans hate anyone as much as they hated Laettner. Christian was one of the best college players of his era. In fact, he was the only non-NBA player chosen for the 1992 Dream Team. Sorry, not 90. But from the moment the Duke standout got drafted into the league, he became the villain, and everybody despised. When Gil began to notice that, he went up to Laettner and asked why. Speaking at the No Chill Gil podcast, a former Wizards All-Star narrated, It was the first time that I seen a man just get booed as soon as he came on the court. He came in like the last 7 minutes, and man, it was killing him. I was like, yo, what'd you do? And he was like, this is how it's been my whole career, he said. This is the only time I get cheered is when whatever home team I'm playing for, other than that. I get booed like this everywhere I go, he said. Ever since he was in college, when I stepped on the dude's chest, and then plus I'm playing for Duke, the most hated team, Gil narrated. So when he was playing on a court, he stepped on some dude's chest. So I'm like, how do you deal with this? He says, a therapist, this is Christian Laettner, a therapist and Mary Jane. Me, I was clueless, so I asked, your wife Mary Jane? He's like, nah, Mary Jane. And I say, you could smoke? And he says, like, no, yeah, everywhere I go. arenas told the story. Christian Laettner was the next great white hope, but he played in an NCAA era where fans gravitated towards Jerry Tarkanen's UNLV Runnin' Rebels and Michigan's Fab Five. Laettner led Duke to 4 straight Final Four appearances, winning 2 NCAA titles. The icing on the cake was beating out Shaquille O'Neal for the lone collegiate spot on the 1992 Dream Team. Man, I wonder why he got booed too. So Laettner was the 3rd overall pick in the 1992 behind Shaq and Alonzo Mourning, but he never lived up to his expectations. To add insult to injury, fans only enjoyed the fact that he failed as a player. It was difficult to deal with, so Laettner turned to Mary Jane, just like many other players do and did. So also Joakim Noah also claimed that marijuana helped him and many other players too. So it's a funny story. I never knew that though, so I had to read it. Mrs. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
That's the end of the show.
Yeah.
Got anything else to say?
Have a great week, everybody. Stay well. And hope you don't have too many hot flashes.
Smoke weed if you do.
Smoke weed if you do.
I'm going to say it again, like I said earlier in the show. Peace be with you all. I love you. Be kind to one another. Don't choose sides. Choose humanity. I love you all out there. As Paulie always says, smoke smart. Puff, puff, and away.
Puff, puff, pass.
Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome, long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 Decades, because a 9th decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.